Calm, neutral paparazzi photographs. No public sightings. No official statement. Just silence. Build curiosity naturally, but remain factual. And when one of the world's most recognizable families can travel inside Britain without any immediate public awareness, it naturally raises questions about privacy, planning, and security. For Prince Harry, this was not simply a private family holiday. The trip took place against the background of a long-running legal dispute over his security arrangements in the United Kingdom. According to reports, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and their two children, Archie and Lilibet, spent time in the UK during a private family visit that was not publicly announced at the time. No airport photographs emerged. No public witnesses confirmed their movements, and no official statement was released regarding the visit while it was taking place. His notion thenji. Now's public information made the trip notable. It showed that, with careful planning and privacy measures, even one of the world's most closely followed families could complete a UK visit without immediate media attention. However, once details of the trip became public, the discussion moved beyond the holiday itself. The focus shifted towards a wider question. What does this reveal about security, privacy, and the level of protection required for a member of the royal family who is no longer a working royal? Return to calm. A few days later, Meghan Markle shared photographs from her summer holiday on her Instagram account. Initially, the images appeared to be a personal family update. However, online observers began analyzing visible details within the photographs, including backgrounds, landscapes, and other environmental clues. Over time, reports suggested that the Sussex family had spent part of their UK visit at a private location in Scotland. The visit had not been officially announced, and the exact way in which information about the location became known has not been publicly confirmed. The Sussexes have also not provided a detailed explanation regarding how the details of the trip emerged. Nevertheless, one fact became clear. Prince Harry and Meghan had completed a private UK visit that remained outside public attention for a considerable period of time.
And that became the reason the trip attracted wider interest.
For some observers, the visit represented the effectiveness of careful planning and privacy arrangements. For others, it raised questions about how security risks should be assessed when a high-profile individual is able to travel without a public incident. To understand why this became such a significant discussion, it is necessary to look back at the events that changed Prince Harry's security arrangements in the first place. The story begins in 2020, when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepped back from their roles as senior working members of the royal family. The year 2020 marked a major turning point in Prince Harry's life. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced that they would step back from their roles as senior working members of the royal family, it was not just a personal decision, it changed several parts of their public life. One of the biggest changes involved their security arrangements. As senior working royals, Prince Harry automatically received state-funded police protection. However, after stepping away from official royal duties, those arrangements were reviewed, and eventually, the level of automatic protection he had previously received was changed. No legal explanation. At this point, it is important to understand the difference between private security and state protection. Private security companies can provide trained professionals for personal protection, but armed police protection, access to certain intelligence assessments, and coordination with government security systems are responsibilities handled by official authorities. This difference became one of the central issues in Prince Harry's legal challenge. Prince Harry's position has remained consistent. He has argued that his security risks did not disappear simply because he stepped away from his official royal role. According to his argument, his identity, his connection to the royal family, and his international profile continue to make him a potential target. His legal team has maintained that his security needs should be assessed based on the level of risk, rather than only his current royal status. This argument became the foundation of his legal battle over security arrangements in the United Kingdom. However, the issue was not viewed the same way by everyone. Critics raised a different question. If Prince Harry was no longer a working royal, should he continue receiving the same level of publicly funded protection as active members of the royal family. This argument became the foundation of his legal battle over security arrangements in the United Kingdom. However, the issue was not viewed the same way by everyone. Critics raised a different question. If Prince Harry was no longer a working royal, should he continue receiving the same level of publicly funded protection as active members of the royal family? They argued that the successful nature of the trip did not prove that there was no risk. Instead, they suggested it showed that careful planning and security measures had worked effectively. Analytical documentary 2, one event, two different interpretations. And that difference in perspective became one of the central reasons the debate continued. Because the discussion was never only about one journey to Scotland, it was about a much bigger question. How should security decisions be made for individuals who remain highly recognizable but no longer hold the same official role? Rang de Medium. To understand that decision-making process, the story moves towards the organization responsible for assessing royal and VIP security risks, a committee known as RAVEC. For most people, it is a name they have never heard. Yet behind the scenes, it plays a significant role in deciding security arrangements for members of the royal family and other protected public figures in the United Kingdom. RAVEC stands for the Royal and VIP Executive Committee. Its responsibility is not to measure popularity. It does not make decisions based on newspaper headlines, social media discussions, or public opinion. Its role is to assess risk, and based on that assessment, it advises what level of police protection may be appropriate in a particular situation. That distinction is important, because public debate and official risk assessment are not the same thing. A story that dominates headlines may have very little influence on a formal security review. Likewise, a quiet event that attracts almost no public attention could still involve extensive planning behind the scenes. This is where the Scotland trip became particularly interesting. Critics argued that if Prince Harry and his family were able to travel across Britain without attracting media attention or experiencing a reported security incident, then the trip should be considered part of the wider discussion about security arrangements. Supporters reached a very different conclusion. They argued that the success of the visit did not prove the absence of risk. Instead, they suggested it demonstrated how effective planning and appropriate security measures can prevent problems before they ever become visible. Security professionals often make a similar point. A successful operation is frequently one that attracts no attention at all. When everything goes according to plan, the public may never realize how much preparation took place behind the scenes. For that reason, the absence of an incident does not automatically mean there was no threat, nor does it automatically prove that additional protection was unnecessary. Balanced legal explanation. It is also important to understand that no UK court or government authority has publicly stated that the Scotland trip by itself either strengthened or weakened Prince Harry's legal case. That distinction matters because legal decisions are based on evidence, intelligence assessments, and established procedures, not on assumptions drawn from a single successful journey. As a result, the Scotland visit became something more than a private family holiday. It became a case study. One event viewed through completely different perspectives. For some, it represented successful privacy. For others, successful security planning. And for the authorities responsible for making official decisions, it remained only one small part of a much larger picture. But while the debate over security continued, Prince Harry found himself facing another legal battle. This time, not over police protection, but over his long-running dispute with the British tabloid press. While the debate over security continued, Prince Harry found himself involved in another legal dispute. This time, the issue was not police protection. It was his long-running legal battle with the British tabloid press. At first glance, the two stories appeared unrelated, but for Prince Harry, privacy, media attention, and personal security have remained closely connected for many years. As a result, when both issues appeared in the headlines at around the same time, many observers naturally discussed them together. The legal case centered on allegations that journalists working for a newspaper publisher had obtained private information through unlawful methods. The claims included allegations of phone hacking, the use of private investigators, and other forms of privacy intrusion. These were serious allegations, and they attracted significant public and media attention. However, when the matter reached the High Court, not every claim succeeded. The court explained that allegations alone are not enough. Claims must be supported by evidence that meets the required legal standard. In this case, the court concluded that the necessary evidential threshold had not been established for certain claims before it. That distinction is important. The court was assessing the evidence presented within that specific case. It was not making a wider judgment about every concern that had ever been raised. Following the ruling, discussion quickly moved beyond the courtroom. Some commentators suggested that the timing of the legal decision, together with renewed attention on the Scotland trip, created additional challenges for Prince Harry's public image. Others argued that each legal case should be considered separately. Different cases involve different facts, different evidence, and different legal questions. For that reason, the outcome of one dispute should not automatically influence opinions about another. Whose balance documenta D. Despite those different viewpoints, one fact was clear. Prince Harry's relationship with the British media remained under intense public scrutiny, and that scrutiny continued to shape wider conversations about privacy, security, and public perception. By this stage, three different issues had become closely connected: security, the media, and public trust. Each discussion influenced the next. Each headline added another layer to an already complex story. Slow reflected, yet another question continued to return, one that reached beyond legal arguments and public opinion. Who should pay for Prince Harry's security when he visits the United Kingdom? That question would become one of the most debated aspects of the entire controversy, because the discussion was no longer only about risk. It was also about public funding, taxpayers, and where responsibility should ultimately lie. The debate surrounding Prince Harry's security has never been limited to questions of risk alone. Over time, another issue has repeatedly moved to the center of the discussion: public funding. Because whenever the subject of police protection is raised, one question almost always follows: who should pay for it? Prince Harry and his family now live outside the United Kingdom. They are no longer senior working members of the royal family. For many people, that changes the conversation. Critics argue that publicly funded police protection should primarily be reserved for those carrying out official constitutional duties on behalf of the Crown. From that perspective, they believe taxpayers should not automatically fund the same level of protection for someone who no longer performs that role. Supporters see the issue differently. They argue that security threats are not determined by job titles alone. Prince Harry remains the son of King Charles. He is still one of the world's most recognizable public figures. According to that view, the level of risk should be assessed independently of whether he is currently a working royal, a financial pendant, or financial royal suspendus. These two positions have shaped much of the public debate. One side focuses on public accountability and the responsible use of taxpayers' money. The other focuses on personal safety and the reality of ongoing security risks. Neither argument exists in isolation. Both continue to influence how the wider discussion is understood.
Some legal commentators have also suggested that this case could have wider significance beyond Prince Harry himself.
Future decisions involving members of the royal family who step away from official duties may be examined through a similar framework. How should protection be assessed? Should official status carry the greatest weight, or should the decision depend primarily on the level of risk faced by the individual? These questions extend beyond one person. They touch on the future of royal security policy itself. One has missed. At the same time, it is important to note that no single public principle has been announced that automatically applies to every future case. Each security assessment is considered on its own circumstances. For that reason, many aspects of this debate remain unresolved. Perhaps that explains why one private journey to Scotland generated so much discussion. It was never simply about a family holiday. It became a conversation about security, privacy, public funding, royal responsibility, and public perception. All of those issues became connected through one event, which brings us back to the central question that has remained throughout this story. Did the Scotland trip weaken Prince Harry's argument for state-funded security? Or did it simply demonstrate how effective planning can allow even one of the world's most recognizable families to travel privately? That is the question that continues to divide opinion, and it is where this story reaches its conclusion. Calms, the biggest controversies do not begin with a public statement, a courtroom decision, or a dramatic confrontation. Sometimes, they begin with silence. The Scotland trip was one such example. There were no public appearances, no paparazzi photographs, no reported security incident. Yet once details of the visit became public, a private family holiday evolved into a much wider debate about security, privacy, public funding, and the responsibilities that come with royal status. Throughout this story, one journey has been viewed from several different perspectives. Critics have argued that the visit demonstrated how careful planning can allow a high-profile family to travel safely without permanent state-funded police protection. Supporters have reached the opposite conclusion. They believe the trip highlighted the importance of careful security planning rather than the absence of risk. Legal observers, meanwhile, have taken a different position altogether. They point out that public debate and legal decision-making are not the same thing. Official decisions are based on evidence, intelligence assessments, and established legal processes, rather than public opinion or social media discussion. That is why the Scotland trip continues to attract attention. Not because it provides every answer, but because it raises important questions. Questions about how security should be assessed, how public money should be used, and how privacy should be balanced with public accountability when one of the world's most recognizable families is involved. For now, there is no single official conclusion that settles every aspect of this debate. Different people continue to interpret the same events in different ways, and perhaps that is why the discussion has never truly disappeared. In the end, the most significant part of this story may not be the journey itself. It may be what that journey revealed about the ongoing challenges facing Prince Harry, the royal family, and the institutions responsible for balancing security, privacy, and the public interest. Sometimes, the loudest debates begin with the quietest moments, and sometimes, a journey that almost nobody noticed at the time becomes the one everyone is still talking about. Warm, professional documentary outquinty. 1. Professional documentary outquin.
Warm, professional documentary, on to hard.
If you enjoy in-depth documentaries that explore the facts, the legal background, and the wider context behind major royal family stories, consider subscribing to Regal Signal. In our next documentary, we'll examine another royal controversy, exploring the events, the evidence, and the different perspectives behind the headlines. Until then, thank you for watching. This has been Regal Signal.